I do once.
There we go.
Ooh. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the last community open hour of 2021. My name is Wayne. I think everybody here knows me, and I'll be talking most of it today. So as usual, hit us up in all the social places: YouTube, GitHub, Slack, Twitch, Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. We had our test clinic earlier today, so the recording for that should be up on Twitch, and then I think soon it'll get uploaded to YouTube magically. So check that out if you missed it. But our agenda today, we've got community updates with Chunga, release updates. We'll be talking a little bit about Phosphorus. Thomas Phipps will report on some of the activities he's been doing, helping out with the community. Lisa, I think I saw her, will be giving us an update on docs. Megan on Heist. I'll be covering some help wanted issues, and then we'll have opportunity for questions and answers. So over to you, Chunga.
Thank you, sir, and welcome all of you to another Salt Project open hour. I'll be honest, we're so close to the holiday, I didn't know how many people we were going to have. So thanks all of you for showing up. As Wayne said, our open hours are every first and third Thursday, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which you all know because you're all here. But just a reminder that will continue into the new year 2022. This is our last open hour. As Wayne said, our next one will be on January 3rd. So a little bit light today in terms of open hour. Please fill up that time with lots of questions and commentary. But I want to say a quick thank you to both Megan and Elisa for hopping in and giving us some updates today as well. That's really all I have, Wayne. That's it. That's all I got for you today.
Thank you. So these are some of the issues that were requested for the next release. I don't know if we have made any changes on these. Chunga, you want to click on that poll one at the bottom? I'm curious if that one's been merged yet, or if there was, yes, it has in fact been merged. So good deal. That one
keep going.
You
want me to keep scrolling here? Sorry.
Yeah, you can go ahead and close that. That's merged, so it'll be
okay.
in our Phosphorus release. I don't know for sure if the other issues have been, if there are any pull requests associated with that. I know I've reviewed several pull requests this last couple of days. If it isn't, we'll need to take a look at those. But go on to the next slide. So over to you, Thomas, about community updates.
Most of the interesting tickets this last couple of weeks, the one that really kind of stood out was debugging Salt API issues. One of the first things you should learn about debugging Salt API is not to debug Salt API. Debug in Salt call before you debug Salt API. Debug it as Salt minion then. And if you're having authentication issues, Salt-A is your friend.
Nice.
90% of the time, most of the issues are outside of Salt API. When you're going to have an issue in Salt API is with where you're quoting, which in the case of the ticket or the issue the user was having was the problem. They were passing a string or a dict as a string instead, which
yeah, that would definitely do it.
Yeah. And that's usually where the problems when it does come down to Salt API is knowing what is a dict, what is a string, what is a list. And you have to actually pay attention to the Python modules you're passing to.
Yeah, that's a good point, and a good thing for all of us to remember is, take as many variables out of the testing that you can. So if you're doing Salt API, well, try and run the same thing from the Salt master. And if that fails, well, try and run it as a Salt call local from the minion. And if that succeeds, then the problem is in the somewhere between the master and the minion. And so it's good.
Exactly.
Very good reminder. Anything else?
The only other issue that really came up that was kind of interesting is kind of pointing to a SEP that we should probably start looking into at some point to make Salt easier. SEP 25 that hasn't been accepted yet.
Yeah, we definitely need to do some cleanup and SEP herding around those SEPs as we're entering the end of the year. Things have been kind of winding down. So as we pick up the new year, that's something that at least is on my plate for something to really drive and get those all cleaned up and move forward.
Well, SEP 25 is the creating a state register system. And well, one of the jobs I have is making Salt easy, and that is one of the biggest asks everyone always makes is there any way to take an output from one state into another?
Yeah, for sure. So that'll be a very interesting thing to look at in a little bit more depth as we get into the next year.
Yeah, and that's it from me.
All right. So on to the Salt docs. You're up, Elisa.
Hello. Happy to be here. So I officially joined the Salt team last week, and it's a lot of fun. For my update today, I wanted to give my standard speech that I've been giving to the Salt core team and other members about the top reasons why I wanted to be Salt's technical writer. I'm super excited, and I've been gearing to be on this team for quite some time. I've been with SaltStack since 2019, just so you know. But the reason why I wanted to be on this team, number one reason is I am passionate about open source software and about improving documentation in open source software. I really firmly believe that open source changes the world for the better. And as a fun side note, I have my own little open source project. I didn't start it, but I am the chair of it currently, called the Good Docs Project, which is all about improving documentation in open source. And one of the key initiatives we work on is creating templates that can be adopted by non-technical writers to use in their open source projects to make their documentation better, among many other initiatives. So I really do care about open source quite a bit, to the point where I do spend my personal time making it better. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is I believe I can make a significant, meaningful contribution here at SALT. We have had technical writing support. Of course, I don't want to minimize like the excellent technical writing documentation that everyone on the engineering team in the community does. That is appreciated. But it's also true that we haven't had like dedicated, like trained technical writing support for quite some time, or at least it's been spotty and on and off. And so I feel like there's a real way to make a difference, given the background that I have in technical writing, to improve SALT's docs. And so I'm super excited for the opportunity I've been wanting to change the SALT docs and make them better for a very long time. So I'm really excited to do that. My next reason is I just love creating community projects and events that get people excited to contribute to the docs. Last year, I helped Derek with the Salt Docs Community Jam, where we converted Alan Kugler's guide from a closed source material to open source. And that was just such an amazing event. I loved that so much. I'm addicted to those kind of events now, and I'm happy to maybe do a future event like that in 2022. Maybe we haven't planned it yet, but but it was a highlight of the year for me, and I'm excited to have an opportunity like that again. Next reason is I believe in salt and I want it to succeed. I think salt is awesome tech, and I want other people to see how awesome it is. It is a little bit difficult to onboard. We all kind of know that. Let's see if we can make it better. Let's see if we can make it easier so that we can spread salt to more people, because it is some seriously cool tech and I want more people to use it. The next reason is I love writing for DevOps and audiences. Some of my best friends, no kidding, are network engineers, DevOps people. I just love that crowd. I get along with them really well, and I'm excited to write to them. The next reason is I love working with this community and this team. I love this team so much. They're some of my favorite coworkers and have been ever since I joined SaltStack. So I'm excited to work with them a little bit more directly. And the last reason that I'm excited to be the Salt technical writer is that I just love learning, and this will give me a chance to grow. There are ways that this new assignment is going to challenge me and help me to grow. And that's my favorite thing, is to just get better and to learn and grow all the time. So I'm excited to be here to do it with all of you. So that's my top 7 reasons. Let me say really quickly what I'm currently working on. What I'm doing right now is laying the foundation for how I will do work in 2022, how I will handle docs requests, both big and small. So right now I'm working on my docs triage process so that I can handle your requests in a timely manner for small fixes here and there and figure out how to get those done effectively. And bigger things, how do we handle big projects, big strategic improvements to the docs? And as part of that, I'm working on a docs roadmap that will be publicly accessible and votable, where people can give their opinions about how to improve the docs and big initiatives that we can work on. And hopefully I'll unveil that in January. In the meantime, if you want to talk to me, the best way is to join the docs working group. Where I'm having conversations about getting that first docs working group scheduled for January. It'll probably be the second week in January if you want to join. But you can always talk to me and keep the conversation going on Slack, on the documentation channel, or you can always open an issue. And in theory, I will look at it. All right, so that's it for me. Thank you so much. Back over to you, Wayne.
Awesome, thank you. We are super excited to have you as part of our team. Like you mentioned, docs have not always had the amount of love that we all need and want. So it's very great to have somebody excited and skilled, because no matter how excited and enthusiastic you are, if you don't have the skills and training, it just takes a little while longer to do the right things. So up next, we've got Megan with some updates around Heist.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Oh yeah, can you stop sharing? Thanks. I'm going to demo off something new that was just recently added to Heist. So I'm going to get this command starting to run because it's going to take a little bit. But what I added is this feature called Wonder, and I'll explain that a little bit. I'm going to get this command started, and it's going to initiate Heist and create the tunnel between the minion and the master. So as you can see right now, there shouldn't be any key. Okay, that's my minion, but the target is system name. So the key is not there yet. It will automatically generate that and everything. So the feature that we added is called Wonder. And Wonder is the package type. We have single bin, which was for the longest time the only thing that Heist supported, which is literally just a single binary of salt. And when it runs, it puts everything into temp, extracts everything into temp, and then it runs salt. Wonder is just that it's just that directory already. It doesn't need to be extracted. So there's pros and cons to both approach. Single bin is faster to copy over to the target, but it's slower to start up the minion or any salt command, because it actually has to extract all the files to the temp directory. Whereas Wonder, it takes longer to copy over to the target. but it's faster starting up the minion. So there's pros and cons. One of the significant things we'll see is our initial testing with Windows. In the next couple of sprints, we're going to be adding Windows support, and we notice a significant speed increase with Wonder when starting up the minions. So that was one of the reasons. So yeah, this was some of the speed tests that I did. And it was just one simple test, you know, so you can see here when I copied the artifact over with single bin, it took about 23 seconds. Wonder took about 1 minute. But when you're running just say a test.ping, the single bin takes longer, 3 seconds, versus the Wonder only took 1 second. So that kind of shows you the difference between the two. And so what we should be seeing is we should see the Wonder copied over. This is the target that I was targeting. We should see the Wonder directory, which is correct here. This is actually a directory. If it was a single bin, it would just be one binary that you could call. And so, yeah, this is the entire directory with everything that Salt needs to run. And we should see the key over here now on the master. And I should be able to run a command against it. Perfect. And then when I kill Heist, it should remove everything on the target host. So Heist isn't under there anymore. Now there's the Wonder, and the key should be deleted. So yeah, that's the only update we have to Heist so far. Like I stated earlier, one of the big goals when we get back is to add Windows support, which I think will be a great thing.
Very awesome. That sounds wonderful.
I see what you did there.
Wayne Werner, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, can I just hop in really quick? Thank you, Thomas Phipps. I appreciate it, man. At the beginning of open hour here, I said that our next open hour would be January 3rd. No, that's when we're all going back to work. The first Thursday of January is January 6th. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize. January 6th is our next open hour. Please make a note of it. All right, sorry. There you go.
Yes, great. All right. So thanks again, Megan. And on to our next slide. If you haven't been, or if you aren't aware, we've been adding the help wanted label to issues. This is basically our way of saying, look, these are important things. They're things that we would love to be able to do if we had an infinite amount of time and, you know, an infinite amount of monkeys and typewriters, but we don't. Time is finite. And so unfortunately, we have to prioritize some things. And these are ones that we'd love to get merged, or done, but we just don't have the bandwidth ourselves. So we label things with help wanted. So that's a great way for you to just like go find something if you're interested in contributing to SALT. Go check out the help wanted tag in the issues and find something that piques your interest. So these are some that I just picked out of our list that they may or may not be old, but they're relatively kind of, they'd be a good place to start. You know, if you've got a couple of, you know, an hour or two over the next couple of weeks, these would be good things to pick up and, you know, if you're interested. So if you want to click on this first link here, so this one, whoops. This one, it's got some code. So if you scroll well, actually, yeah, go scroll all the way down, I think there's a pull request that's linked. So this one's pretty old, but yeah, click on this. Salt SSH should support the use of sudo. Okay, I might be wrong on which thing this was. If you go back and scroll up, and on the right side it says scroll all the way almost to the top. On the right side, you'll see a little thing that says linked pull requests. Yeah, right down there to the right, just above all the faces. Yeah, click on that. So this pull request exists and fixes it, but it is directed to develop, or at least I'm pretty sure it fixes it. I haven't tested it, but it does need some tests. So that's the big thing about this one is we don't have any tests, so we can't merge it until we have some tests. So if somebody wanted to pick this up and kind of push it over the finish line, this would be a good thing that's been waiting for a while. You know, you can see some of these dates are 2018. It's been a few years, but it's still something that would be valuable and useful to have. So go on to the next one. So this one, I believe that this is the one where I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Yeah, so I had looked at this and it definitely kind of exists. You can actually install a pre-release, but you have to be particular because of the way that it's set to ignore some things. So I'm pretty sure if you just make the change in here and then write some tests for it, then that would be good. And we'd be able to review that and get that merged in. Yeah, go to the next one. And so this one, the author submitted, and if you scroll down to the bottom, basically they just don't have any bandwidth for the next couple of months. So if somebody wanted to pick this up and add some tests for it, then great. Otherwise, hopefully the author will be able to pick that up in a couple of months. And I think there was, two more. So this one here, was a bunch of discussion. Not sure if it's actually still an issue or not. We haven't had any information back. If it is still an issue, then having a fix and some tests would be great. And then this last one. And then this one should be pretty much done as far as the pieces, but it is, it just needs to be combined. So Narragaal wasn't, their interest has waned, so they're not interested in completing this. But if somebody else wants to pick this up, I added some tests on a branch. So if they wanted to pick up this PR, grab those tests that I wrote, and combine that, then it should be relatively straightforward to get that reviewed and merged. So those are just some of the things that we have in the help wanted tag. So if any of those are interesting to you, by all means, go ahead and jump on those and open up a new PR, and we should be able to get those reviewed and merged. I mean, obviously we'll be, many people will be out of office over the next couple of weeks, so probably be at the beginning of the year, but those are some places where we would definitely love some help. But other than that, I think that's all we had planned. Did you have something, Thomas?
About that first one?
Yeah.
I think that already actually works without anything changed.
Well, even better. So if it does work, then we can go ahead and close that. So that would be awesome if it is actually.
It might just be a documentation issue at this point.
Yeah.
Are you referring to the SSH one?
Yeah.
You're saying that you can use sudo with a password on the target host? I think that's what it's saying.
Yes, when I use, it actually is just the password.
Okay.
And if...
and when it authenticates to sudo, you're sure the user you're using doesn't have...
Yes,
Password
because the user I'm using doesn't have access to anything directly.
Well, that's good news.
Well, cool. Yeah, I guess if you can be like, oh yeah, this totally it works, then we can go ahead and just drop that comment in the issue, and we can go ahead and close those. I think there were like 2 or 3 issues on that, so I guess we may have solved that in an alternate way, which kind of doesn't surprise me. If some of the branches, when we had lots of branches going every which way, some things got fixed on some branches and not on others. So it's entirely possible that was what happened with that, and we just didn't get to close that. So yeah, cool. That's good news. So aside from that, I guess it is time for questions and answers. So I know there were a couple of things that Nick dropped in the chat there. Do you want to go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, man, I came prepared.
All right.
So the 2 links that I threw into chat there have to do with packaging on Rel 8. And so I was just wondering, I guess, when that might be addressed, considering part of it has to do with Python 3.6 reaching end of life, and that's kind of what's required as part of the default packages that are up there on the repo. And then the other part of it has to do with the Salt Minion startup script having a shebang that explicitly references Python 3.6 versus Python 3. And there was some conversation surrounding kind of both of those on 61.345. But I did make them 2 separate issues because I kind of wanted to make sure that they were addressed as such.
Yeah, no, that's very good. And thank you for opening those and getting those discussions kicked off. I know that recently we've had some discussion about using Tiamat builds on, I think it's Rel 8. Does anybody else on the core team, Gareth or Megan, do either of you have any, or Pedro, I think I saw you in here. Do you have any other information about that?
I thought that was Rel 7 we were talking about.
Was it Rel 7?
Yeah.
Something old?
I can elaborate a little bit. So does Rel 8 intend to continue to support 3.6 and continue to keep that installed, correct? They're not planning on upgrading to Python 3.7?
So what's available in the app streams right now are 3.6, 3.8, and 3.9. And, like going back to, not like the CentOS stream version, right? But like legit CentOS 8, if you were to install that right now, it has 0 Python installed whatsoever on the CentOS side. And they just assume that you're going to install whatever you want. There's also some old literature when Rel 8 first came out that said that they weren't really opinionated when it came to Python. So effectively, anything that's available in their app streams, you could install and use. And so, as far as which one you're requiring through your packaging, as far as the dependency, like it would have to be broadcast, obviously, but changing that to something else that's available in AppStream 3.8 or 3.9 would solely be an opinion on your part as to which one you're requiring. As far as the shebang, that's kind of, I think it just needs to be removed, and that would near term allow anybody to use whatever Python 3 version they care to through the use of alternatives on the system.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment. With the shebang, that should be an easy fix. Is Rel still planning on supporting 3.6 on a security perspective, like Debian still patches end-of-life Python versions, for example?
That I don't know. I don't know if anybody on the call has some backstory on that, whether or not they are planning on security patching it.
Okay. Because typically what we've done in the past is just continue to support what the default is. And we still have to, even if we, for example, get the TMAP packages working for phosphorus, we still want to release it with our, what we're calling old packaging, which is the current packaging for all end users now. So we'd still have to support those for a couple releases. So I guess that's what I would need to find. You're going to say something, David?
Yeah, the discussion was originally about Debian 9 because Debian 9 uses Python 3.5, and when TMAP becomes out of beta, we'll support Debian 9 with TMAP packages. With regard to this, it's a very simple fix. It's an overhang from when RHEL 7 had Python 3.4 and Python 3.6 as an alternative. Then they switched them back so that was 3.6, that was the one, and Python 3.4, that was the alternative. And so this was to fix it to, we always use 3.6. And it got pulled into CentOS 8. CentOS 8 did have a default of 3.6 Python when it first came out, similar to how they changed the default to 3.6 in RHEL 7. The fact that they've pulled it since is a case of, how should I put it? They'll switch that any information beforehand, and it's only when you go to build that they go, they did what?
Yanking
like,
the rug out from under you.
yeah, a little yanking the rug out from under you. So yeah, we can support this with TMAT in the future when it goes beta. We're already supporting TMAT on CentOS 7 for a couple of years at this point with the Arista routers, the 64-bit Aristas. So it's not, and that's proven to be stable as hell.
Nice.
It's just the TMAT pip. Getting that in there would be nice. To change this anyway, it's just a simple case of getting rid of the 3.6 and just making it Python 3. However, the person who would do all of this is Bryce. And Bryce left beginning of the month. And now we're struggling for, okay, who's taking over this? Well, the person available, he's swamped because we lost Derek and Bryce. So it's really a question of resources with SREs as to when this gets handled. I have raised it on Slack, and when you brought the issue up, I went trolling in our meetings about this and how we're going to handle when Python versions expire, because Python 3.6 doesn't even make it to Christmas. It'll be dead 23rd. So it's just a case of, yeah, raising a stink so we can get this changed.
Yeah.
So that, and the fact that everybody is basically gone after next week till the new year. I can't see this getting addressed till the new year as people are trying to wrap other items up before they go on Christmas break.
Yeah.
So David,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just confirming what you're saying. So obviously the script change is easy, but you're saying we should change the packaging from 3.6 to 3.8, correct?
No, I'm saying we do as Nicholas suggests and just make it Python 3. And then whatever the person has installed on their system will use it. My only concern is, what if they install something like 3.10 and then we blow up because we have an issue with 3.10? If you follow me, or somebody installs Alpha 3.11 and we blow up because we haven't done a full support for it. That would be the only bit.
Yeah, I'd argue that that's kind of not our problem though, right? Like
Yeah.
if somebody wanted to do crazy stuff on their system when, we have, the default that's with the package is not something that they're pointing at or something like that. That's kind of out of scope for what we should care about, right? Like, what I'm trying to guard against with, having sort of a broader shebang there is exactly where we are right now, where I have customers that want to upgrade to a newer Python. They see the 3.6 EOL and they're like, nah, we're getting away from this. Let's go. and then all of a sudden we have to do crazy workarounds.
Yes, I'm total agreement with you, Nicholas. It needs to go and be changed to just Python 3. However, I'll just point out that won't stop people doing crazy things and saying you're broken.
Yeah, as a
So
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say I was going to play around with this before the end of the week, but life had a way of getting other issues stuck in my face.
As it sometimes does.
David, usually when they do the crazy things and then end up saying we're broken, I'm usually the one that says, yeah, you broke it.
Yeah.
So as a interesting and relevant tangent, I guess, distutils is going to be deprecated and will be removed. I think it's in 3.12, but it's an issue that I have on my plate, because basically our entry points and our setups, our setup.py relies heavily on distutils. And you know, for anybody who's been in Python packaging for 5 or 10 years, you know, it's evolved quite a lot in that time. Even in the last like 3 years, it's evolved significantly. But anyway, so distutils is going away, which means our current approach of using distutils will no longer be supported by the Python packaging ecosystem. I do have a branch on, I think it's just on my fork. I may have even put in like a draft PR. I can't remember. I think it might just be a branch on my fork. But I actually just completely removed setup.py and went to a setup.cfg using the setup tools entry points. And then shifted the scripts from the current scripts directory, I think, or actually, I think the scripts were just a lightweight wrapper around entry points within the salt package. But I just completely changed everything to use setup tools using the setup.cfg entry points. So
I would ask, why aren't we going with TOML? Because setup is not long for this world either.
So that if I understand correctly, setup.cfg/pyproject.toml, there's not a firm forward path, but they're both TOML files. And so it's relatively irrelevant as far as that goes, because it's just we just put the content in a different file.
Gotcha. I was thinking,
I think
get rid of distutils, go whole hog and skip setup tools, which would be going away anyway.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of really interesting things happening within the Python build/packaging ecosystem. But the very limited tests that I did, everything actually worked just fine by pulling out our setup.py, moving to setup.cfg, and pointing to the entry points directly. I was able to run salt master and minion, spin those up, do a test.ping, install a package, and like, okay, cool. I mean, it seems to work just fine. Of course, that's having seen what very simple changes do to other things in Salt and Salt's ecosystem. I'm wise enough to know that that's doing that and saying, oh yeah, it's probably good is a naive approach. But
in answering to Veek's comment in chat and to yours in a way, it's like it'll all be perfectly defined and working in Python 4.0.
Yes, but so that is a thing that will be rapidly approaching as far as things that we need to do. Probably not the phosphorus release, but as soon as we get phosphorus out, I'm pretty sure that's what I'll be devoting a lot of effort to is that process of getting disutils out. I think the largest thing will just be coordinating among all the teams and making sure that we have things tested, and that we don't shock and surprise anybody. It's probably worth just thinking out loud, doing a like sort of alt release, I guess, for what's after phosphorus, sulfur. In sulfur, so we do a release with what we currently have, but then also do a salt sans disutils release. That way people have the opportunity to try both, right? So they can try the one without disutils and make sure that that works in their system. But if everything catches on fire and blows up, we can we still have a release that's good and works well, doing what we know has worked. So that's probably a worthwhile endeavor for sulfur. So I mean, that's a longer term than just fixing the shebang line, but that does also fix the shebang line, because whatever Python you install salt into at that point, it will get the correct shebang. Yeah, so anyways, just a little tangent there. I don't know if how many questions we answered, or if we just asked a whole bunch more. But
yeah, so yeah, I totally understand being strapped for resources and stuff like that. But definitely something that I would like to see fixed nearer term, once everybody gets back and assignments can be made and things like that. The other thing that I wanted to bring up was whether or not there was any sort of formal-ish recommendations on what should or should not be a salt extension. And this was a conversation that Wayne and I had about one of the PRs that I had. And so I just wanted to bring it up for everyone and kind of get a sense for what everybody thought about it. But I think that there are some things that kind of clearly probably should be salt extensions, right? So like all of the Azure estates, for instance, would be a great thing to move out, because they require crazy external pip installs in order to get all the stuff. And we need to be kind of opinionated about what versions of that we support, and things break a whole lot, and it needs to move fast like cloud. So that's like a great candidate for it. Whereas the conversation that Wayne and I had was over a returner that didn't have any external imports, but was providing some new functionality to get some metrics into a text exposition format for Prometheus. And so that's a tiny little module that maybe could be an extension, but also kind of would be nice to have included, because it's small and doesn't require a whole lot of external tests or libraries and things like that. So just trying to get a sense for whether or not there is any idea surrounding what should or should not be an extension module, or if there's any like codified guidelines there.
Yeah, so just to jump in real quick and and mention it. So we've had a lot of internal and a little bit of external discussion kind of around the extension modules. It is something that we've had support for it in SALT, but we haven't really pushed it until recently, where we've really started to push the extension module concept. And we have not formally codified the things that we should and shouldn't have as extension modules. And that's another thing that is I've taken onto my plate for the beginning of the new year, is to make sure that we get that well defined and well documented and well publicized. So I'm sure we'll be leaning on Elisa for the documentation and some of the publishing of that sort of things. But there's definitely some discussions that we need to have both internally and externally on exactly what it is that the that means. So all that to say, we don't have a formal set yet, but we will. And I think Gareth, you had some comments.
Oh no, I do have comments. But I was going to ask if this was this was a question I was going to pose to you, Wayne, if this was the extension or the issue, I guess, PR that we were quite at length discussing.
Yes.
Internally. So yeah, I'll echo all of Wayne's sentiments. Like salt extensions it's kind of a new area we're going into, and we still haven't quite formalized like what it means. Like I think we all have ideas of like loosely and easily, like, well, anything new that's going into salt should be an extension. But that's kind of a broad term, and it obviously doesn't always work for everything. I would say some of the things that I would kind of think of in terms of what should qualify as an extension would be something where it makes sense from a maintenance perspective, both from who's going to be maintaining it, how often it's going to be maintained, how many updates it needs, whether or not that should be an extension. So like the cloud, a lot of the cloud stuff you mentioned, Nick, is a good example. A lot of the VMware stuff that Wayne and some of the other team members have been working on, those are perfect examples. Anything where the underlying APIs or technology is changing faster than Salt is, would make sense to be an extension, just because then it's not tied to a specific release, and it's not slowed down by if there's a bug found or whatever, or if an additional feature needs added. It's not slowed down by the regular cadence release, the regular release cadence of Salt itself. But I think ultimately, like for right now, I would say we punt until we've defined what exactly an extension looks like, and kind of some initial rules and requirements and thoughts behind it. And obviously, like that has to be set in stone. We're not going to come up with the exact like wording on day one of us talking about it, and we'll want input from the community on it. So hopefully that answered that long rambling answer, had some helpful information in there.
Yeah, I think it's a similar view for what I think extensions are great at. And so it sounds like the punting would be that 61207 is probably okay to merge for now. And if at some point in the future we determine that like, hey, this is a pain, maybe it should get pulled out, we pull it out.
That's kind of that I'd say that is the gist of what our internal discussion is about. Not necessarily whether or not it should be or shouldn't be an extension, like whether or not we should merge it now with the intent of pulling it out later if it makes sense to. I think a lot of us that were erring on the side of making an extension from day one were just cautious about, because we've included stuff before with the idea of like, okay, we'll deprecate this later, or we'll make this an extension later, or we'll do whatever later, and later never comes.
Yeah.
And so it gets added to our ever-growing pile of tech debt.
In other words, no is temporary, yes is forever.
Yeah, and, exactly.
Yeah. And it's I think there's some interesting prior art there too, right, with like Python and requests. I think a number of people have been like, oh, requests should totally be in Python standard library, but request has to move so fast to keep up with the changing, ever-changing internet landscape that tying that to Python's release cadence would just not make any sense. And so I think that's a similar, a good thing for us to consider as we're discussing what we want, what our extension modules look like, you know. But yeah, I think you were going to say something, Nick.
Nope.
No, okay.
I mean, I can. I've taken over the entire Q&A period, so might as well just take out the last 4 minutes, right?
I don't know if anybody else has questions or comments or thoughts on the topic.
I was just reading through, as I'm sure a few others were, Vic's comments, and I'm assuming this is related to the Nick's PR or just salt extensions in general.
Yeah. So to be clear, right, like this approach is something that was sort of dictated by a customer engagement. So, you know, I definitely understand that there is other Prometheus libraries, and, you know, like potentially, as Vic pointed out, the Prometheus likes to scrape web, right? So you could expose that, via Salt API or something like that. And I think there's some cool use cases potentially there. But this is going to live like this for now, at least. And I think that there's maybe some additional Prometheus things that we could get into that would be valuable. I know that the enterprise product has the ability to expose Prometheus metrics. I think, you know, that's definitely something that open source would benefit from as a whole.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Great.
just that's a lot of those comments there kind of makes me really think an extension is the way to go for this, just because then whoever's interested in contributing to it, you're able to contribute to it. You're not reliant on us to I will fully admit and speak for the rest of the team, we are not the speediest when it comes to merging PRs. Oftentimes on purpose, but sometimes not. And so if this is an extension, then you're not reliant on us to merge those changes that you want to see in a timely fashion.
So I'm unclear on what our decision is, at least for merging that PR.
I don't think we have one.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in the same spot we were at the end of the internal talks as well.
We have firmly waffled.
I believe the term was punt.
Yes,
going to
yeah, we punted. Well, we have we've debated it, we've discussed it on the floor, and now we're getting ready to go on our recess and go our separate ways. So little political humor there.
We're gonna have a government shutdown.
Yeah. The project is shut down until we can reach a consensus. Sorry, too soon.
I think at this point, I'd just be happy with a Wayne joke. We'll call it a year.
So I think I might have shared this at some point in the past, but it's good for a redo. So this husband and wife were out in this town, and there was they were having a discussion about the weather. But there was I was sitting at a cafe, and there was a guy just dressed in bright red clothing, but he was actually a regular there at the cafe, and people would see him around town, and this guy's name was Rudolph, and they were having this discussion about the weather, and it started to precipitate a little bit, and the husband said, "Man, it feels like sleet here," and the wife said, no, it's not sleet. It's definitely rain. And he goes, no, that's wild. I mean, you can feel it. It's cold. It's totally sleet. And she says, no, sure it's not. And this guy, Rudolph, he hears their discussion. And he says, no, it's definitely rain. And the wife looks to her husband and said, Rudolph the Red knows rain, dear.
Grown.
I love it.
My favorite part is how long it took us to get there.
It's one of those, right? Where it just gets, it's like fine wine.
I feel like that one there is worthy of it's a Norm Macdonald joke.
Yeah.
I've got to see if Norm Macdonald ever told that joke. I'm sure he has, actually.
I'm sure he's done a variant of that joke.
Anyways, happy holidays, everyone. Thank you for attending our final open hour of 2021. And as another reiteration, it will be January 6th of 2022.
Sorry, January 6th.
That we will reconvene. And with that, I hope you are all happy, healthy, and safe. And we will see you next time.